Well, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. It's a sad Friday following from Thursday, and by now nobody needs to be briefed about the Otedola fire tragedy. Of course, there's been all sorts of opinions on the matter, all sorts of views on the matter. But diving into the facts, we have with us the GM of LASEMA, Mr. Adeshina Tiamiu. And I want to thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to be joined shortly by Hyginus Omeje, who is the Lagos State Commandant of FRSC. Mr. Tiamiu, the incident happened yesterday around close to 5:25, 5:30, that's what we hear.
Yes.
Before we even go into it, let me just clear something. The numbers. Some people say 54 vehicles were burnt in the whole incident. Some people say 59. Some people say 9 lives were lost. People are looking at for them, incongruity of the figure of 54 vehicles and only 9 lost. Could you clear the air on that? Do you have an actual official figure as to the losses before we even go into the whole matter? Cars versus people who died.
Well, straight away, there are 54 cars that were burnt.
Okay.
And that's a fact. There are 9 people who were brought out dead. And then 4 people sustained injuries.
Okay.
2 critical, 2 minor. And they have all been taken to the hospital.
Wow.
So that's the official figure.
So that's the official line, 9, yes. Which in a way, if one can be looking for some sort of a blessing in this kind of a tragedy, a figure of 9 in the fireball that happened. Now tell me about that. You would have responded, your agency would have responded as soon as possible. Were you able to access the scene, the theater of operation in good enough time? Because there would have been confusion all over the place. Yes,
we have an office inside Alausa here, which makes it a 5-minute drive away from Alausa to the incident scene. Yes, we didn't make it in 5 minutes, but good enough. There are other responders who we met on ground. Mm-hmm. The LASEMA team were there to, provide order. The policemen were also there. Road safety were there. And then we got there in about 11 minutes. Some of us have to drive.
After the first report.
After the first call. So some of us have to drive through, facing an oncoming vehicle from Bega, because the whole, it's a closing time. And there are quite a lot of vehicles driving out of town.
There was a sense in which it
was peak. Immediately this happened, those vehicles who were on the hilly part, because if you know Otedola Bridge, it's a slope, and you have a valley before you climb the bridge again. Mm-hmm. So those vehicles who were descending had an opportunity to roll back. Those who are caught up in this ball of fire were those driving, the first set driving behind that tanker when it somersaulted and exploded.
Is it too early, or have you been able to ascertain what exactly happened? There are all sorts of versions out there, ranging from conductor, so to speak, of the articulated vehicle, aka tanker, as we say locally, the vehicle falling and exploding. Is it too early, or have investigations indicated clearly what exactly happened?
Now, preliminary investigation revealed that, the tanker driving out of town had an issue climbing.
Yes.
And then it skidded and somersaulted.
Okay, that's what happened.
Yes. And then, of course, it started spilling fuel. And then, there are a lot of cars at the back, some of which engine must have been running for over an hour. And then they are hot.
And it was laden with fuel. Was it petrol or diesel?
Petrol.
Oh, it was petrol.
60,000 liters of petrol. Of course, that's normal. You would expect, a ball of fire to just immediately ignite. And it did.
So this is beginning to lean towards the condition of the articulated, the tanker, the petrol tanker.
Yes.
Because if it had a difficulty ascending that relatively gentle slope, and we can understand, every driver in Lagos understands what's going on. Sometimes these guys will try everything. They'll come down from whatever gear they were to 2 to 1, but it's still, they might not have had the torque required. So most drivers can understand what happened. So we're probably going to end up, a major part of this investigation will be the actual condition of the vehicle, service condition, that kind of a thing, no doubt. But you said to us that it was the vehicle, for whatever reason, not being able to make the slope and then beginning to skid backwards, and then all of this now happened. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, that's just a preliminary report.
Preliminary, okay.
We will still expect that.
Because people are talking about brakes failing.
Well, if a brake fails, and then, you know, normally all of these articulated vehicles, what they do when they have a valley in between hills is they pick up a speed while they are ascending.
Yes.
And then to be able to climb faster
Exactly.
and then continue their journey. Even while we were walking, a lot of it happened yesterday. There are 2 other accidents which happened while we were walking.
Because first of all, the fuel would have made the road slippery.
Yes.
It would have traveled maybe, I imagine, how many kilometers beyond the scene of the accident?
Yes, because it rolled down the bridge itself. And you can see it took away everything on its path.
Now, much has been made of, exactly, the fire consumed everything in its path. Much has been made of the fact that, of course, it would have caused a gridlock in there. You guys, first of all, I know that you worked overnight right into this very morning. In fact, you had to just nip home, do a quick shower, and come back in. It's
Exactly.
like you're still very, very much on duty. And thank God for people like you who are doing the best that they can, along with other agencies, to sort this problem out. But the roads, that road is open. The road that couldn't be passed right up until something like 2 a.m., 1:30, 2 a.m., that road is open. Almost, apart from the news, people wouldn't know that some tragedy happened there.
Well, we worked overnight.
Yes.
His Excellency Governor Akinwumi Ambode was also there at about 1 o'clock. And we all promised him that, yes, before the day breaks,
Yes.
we will clear all of those
road will be
vehicles
open.
off the place. And as I speak, you can find just one of
Okay,
those vehicles.
as a matter of fact, maybe let's just quickly nip across our man, although every newsman is a newsman, is actually our woman. Sarah Ayeku is of TVC News, is there right now. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
Okay, tell us, give us an update, because you are actually where there was conflagration, there was confusion yesterday. What's it like this morning?
Okay, now, of course, right now, calm has been restored. There is no trouble, no hassle, but the only issue is the traffic, of course, because we know that this road is one of the major roads in Lagos, but those connecting Lagos outside to other parts of the country. And so, of course, major thing is the traffic that we have on the road. There are environmentalists around they are sweeping, trying to clear up the debris from the road, and so that when eventually the emergency management agencies open up the roads, the cars that are coming in will not be, nothing will happen to the cars. And so right now, of course, you still have onlookers around trying to see if there's anything that will happen. But earlier we heard about a tanker that was spilling its contents around the toll gate area axis. But we know that some members of the management agencies have actually been deployed to the area. So I have with me to discuss further on that, to tell us what actually happened, what's going to happen to that tanker that is spilling its content around the toll gate area. I have with me the Deputy Corps Commandant, that's the sector head of operations, Mr. Olalekon.
Yeah.
So tell us, what's the situation like at the other end?
Yes, presently the debris have been removed. All the relics of the 54 burned vehicles have been cleared. Now they are sweeping up the road so that we can restore free flow of traffic.
Now, so tell us about the tanker that we heard that is actually spilling its contents just along the toll gate axis. What's the situation over there? Because you told us earlier that you had sent some of your men to go oversee the situation there.
Yes, it has been pulled off the highway for it to be transloaded. We have invited the owners to come and transload it.
All right, so
That is the
let's talk about the safety. Because we know that the root cause of what happened is brake failure on the part of the tanker. Tell us about what should Lagosians, especially tanker drivers, watch out for, especially when it comes to safety on their trucks.
Now, concerning safety of the trucks, owners of these trucks should maintain their vehicle very well. What we had yesterday was as a result of brake failure. Then the tanker rolled back, and then the driver tried to maneuver. The tanker fell and jackknifed. Then the fire. Now we want Lagosians to avoid tailgating. How do I mean? Tailgating, don't drive bumper to bumper. And then we should be alive when we are driving. When there are cases like that, you try to maneuver or you just leave your vehicle and leave the way. It was unfortunate it happened yesterday, but the casualty would have been higher. But for some people who were able to escape, they left their vehicle. I just met one of the victims. He had his vehicle burnt, but at least he's alive. So everybody, we should abide by traffic regulations. All these things we are preaching in road safety, all these traffic offenses that we contravene people for, is to avoid this kind of situation. Every traffic offense that is being committed is a leeway to carnages like this, to fatality like this. So when we caution people, when we apprehend, everybody should support road safety. It's everybody's business, and we should see road safety as our own. That when we preach this gospel of road safety, when we try to enforce, when we create awareness and enlighten people, people should abide by what we are telling them, the education we are given, and they should try to have a buy-in of our operation. So that this kind of situation can be avoided. This is it's an avoidable situation. With little caution here and there, this will not have happened. But somebody will not maintain his vehicle, somebody will not check his brake, and all the rest. Yet, we continue to say, we continue to preach, we continue to enforce. But it's like people don't take it on until they see sin like this. That's when they believe this thing is real. It's unfortunate.
Thank you so much, sir. That was the second head of operations commander for the FRSC. Now, as you rightly said, that this could have been avoidable. We could actually prevent this from happening if tanker drivers or motor commuters can actually take proper care of their vehicles and avoid a brake failure.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Yeah, so that's right now, live. That was live on the scene, so you can see. We could see that vehicles trying to come into Lagos from that axis, Ibadan, Abeokuta, Ijebu, Shagam, wherever it is, that's how you be coming in. We could see all those vehicles. Understandably, they're still trying to, sweep the debris off the road and make sure that the road is travel worthy. You were at the scene as soon as possible. In terms of all the emergency response, I mean, we can imagine, first of all, ASEMA would have been among the forefront of it. There's FRSC. Fire service, were you happy with the response? Because it seemed that we got on top of the tragedy. We were able to put it out. Well,
fire service was absolutely fantastic. And anybody who was there yesterday
Lagos State Fire Service.
Yes, and LRU fire, because LASEMA also have 2 fire fighting trucks on standby. We all combated this together, and
and that was a special kind of fire because it was a petrol fire.
Yes.
I understand it's not the same, and there are specialist materials.
It's a very complex one. It appeared easy the way we quickly arrested it, but it's very, very complex because you had vehicles burning and they all have petrol tanks. So you expect there will be pockets of explosions here and there. In actual fact, the tanker itself, after much heat, exploded.
So I was surprised when the FRSC the commander there was speaking about transloading.
No, he was talking about the one that they said is leaking fuel right now.
Oh, okay.
Not that one that had an accident.
That they've quickly called on the people.
Yes, they have parked this one on the express road, and then they would transload because he cannot drive out of Lagos with petrol leaking. That's another danger waiting to happen. It could be here, it could be anywhere. But we don't want it at all, so we won't allow him to go until he transloaded.
The state of maintenance of these vehicles, this is the kind of thing that FRSC has been talking about. Hygienists are major, Iman and other professionals, your very good self. In fact, that's why we have the whole VIO section, a vehicle inspection, unit and all of that. But are these organs there in name only? We're speaking right now about a tragedy waiting to happen if we don't nip it in the bud. There's a tanker laden with fuel that is leaking. The one that happened yesterday, preliminary reports say that it didn't have the torque. It didn't have the torque to actually ascend the gentle slope, then began to slide back, and that's what happened. So that shows a defective vehicle. Are we unable to catch these things, and therefore that vehicle would not have been on the road? Is that an impossibility?
Well, somebody drew our attention to that, and we immediately acted. Now, is it the enforcing?
No, I'm talking about the bad vehicle that preliminary investigations had shown did not have the torque to actually climb up the hill and then began to slide back, and then, as the man said, they're jackknifed, and it led to the tragedy. If vehicle inspection was, you know, on the cutting edge, that vehicle would not have been licensed or authorized to ply the road. That's what I'm saying, is that
yes,
in spite of having all these organs and these agencies to do these kind of things, what's the problem? Are they getting by officials? Are officials being compromised? Are some dodging officials altogether? Because you can see that there are tragedies waiting to happen, is why the government in the first place has all these different organs.
Well, like I said in one of my earlier interviews today, there's a need for stakeholders meeting to take place now, because everybody must be alive to its responsibility. Yes, we all agreed now that there's a need to monitor, you know, some of these vehicles very well. And this will mean a total cooperation from the owners of this vehicle, from the drivers' union, and from port operators, you know, or depot operators. Because we must start from, if you think a vehicle is not roadworthy, why load it with fuel? That's important. That one that is leaking fuel, for instance, couldn't have started leaking fuel in the course of the journey.
Yes.
Except there was an accident or something. But without that, while they were loading this fuel, they must have noticed that this tanker was leaking. Maybe to them, the leaking is not much, but that's not very good. When any tanker is leaking fuel, it should be stopped from traveling. So we want to expect that from the point of takeoff, this is where work needs to be done. Because if you load 20 tankers, for instance, and the 20 are bad, and they come to town, now imagine where are you going to park 20 loaded tankers? So we should start from where the depot is, where they are loading them. Maybe enforcement units have to start to work from there, because if you have loaded them from there and they are right on the street and they are going, what we can do is to stop them. Now, nobody, for instance, if I arrest a tanker, for instance, I'm not going to allow it to be brought into my compound. It's not going to be easy. So we have to start from there. I agree, enforcement need to be strengthened now. That's the truth.
Yes,
that's the truth.
Because that's the point.
Because we don't have to tell lies about all of these things. Everybody knows. Where is the fault?
But we're lacking a bit in enforcement.
We have to begin to work very well on it. I mean, if we are overwhelmed, let's tell government so that they will help us. If we need more men, let's all of us talk to government. The Lagos State government, for instance, is doing a lot in terms of safety and security. You can imagine the investment we had. If not for all of those equipment that Lasema have today, I mean, you can imagine what will have happened yesterday. Of course, we will just be helpless. If this happened in other states, God forbid, this will have been, you know, a calamity of unequal proportion.
People were saying that it needn't have happened, and then that goes back to the whole entire emergency or security system in this time, in this matter, in this instance, the matter of security of life. Look, I don't know. Government has a job of work to do.
Yes.
And government, I think, is able to do it, but was the ball dropped somewhere? Maybe they don't want to, I don't know. Lagos has a reputation of doing that which is needful. So it doesn't matter whether people think you are too harsh, too strict, but things are happening in Lagos that perhaps shouldn't be happening. Certain vehicles cannot ply the roads until certain hours. This is going on. Nobody knows when it's going to become a bad scene. There's a sense in which, did we sort of slack off a bit and say, look, so far as it didn't become a problem this time, we just thank God and we go on our merry way. But now it has happened. If there's a rule, I believe, where that tanker shouldn't have been on the road at the time it was on the road, or am I wrong about that?
Well, I'm also aware of that, but I have not dusted the book to see, how it operates.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
But you see, I want to say this. There's the need for us to strengthen cooperation among all of us. When I say all of us, both the federal, the state agencies. Now, look at it from this angle. Look at the tankers that are parked all over the bridges in Lagos. That's not acceptable.
Hopefully those are empty ones.
Yes, because they're going into the port.
Yes.
But that's even not acceptable.
It isn't? But you've had a problem.
Now, Lagos State government...
We've had a problem relocating them.
Yes. It's not because Lagos have not tried. For free, I can tell you, Lagos is building a 2,000 capacity truck park in Orile. We set up a team that went into Apapa Port to find out what's going on here. We located some problem and we told them, because it's about turnaround time. Some are on the bridge, they want to drive in and stay there and load. Meanwhile, some of them are supposed to drop their bucket, come out, and then when it is time for them to load, come back again. Now, so many things go on there. Lagos at a point was helpless. Because even when His Excellency asked us, you have to stop this thing from coming in, but do we have the power?
Well, that's the problem right
there.
there.
If we are going to stop trailer from toll gate or from Kara Bridge, what if all of them block the road? It becomes a blackmail.
Well, again, this is the problem. This is the problem right there.
It becomes a blackmail
because I was suspecting that perhaps it's not as if Lagos doesn't have the wherewithal to enforce its laws. But now and again, you see, look, this tragedy that has happened, thank God, we're talking about 9 only, but 54 vehicles were lost. It was like something out of hell. We saw all of that. I don't think anybody would have now complained about Lagos enforcing its regulations if you could just, turn back the clock a bit to before it happened. Because then they would see that all of this is for our own good. It might be inconvenient now. And the unfortunate situation, as you and I know, is that sometimes 50,000 instances of an infringement would not lead to a tragedy.
That's true.
But there will always be that 50,000 plus one that would now, cause a problem. I don't know, you spoke about blackmail. There's a sense in which government, while going about its work, also wants to be seen to be having a human face. I don't know. I guess people like you in government, you know more about this than I do. But perhaps it's a problem. If the rule is the rule, maybe we have to, as you said, following all the stakeholders' meetings, arrive at that situation where we cannot have dangerous situations on the road and then we stand by prayer, which is what people are saying. In fact, I think I heard something where people were talking about prayer this morning. Prayer has its place. Yes. This is a matter about a system working. Certain vehicles cannot ply the road at certain times in Lagos State, perhaps in other states as well. Certain types of vehicles in a state of certain vehicles in a state of disrepair cannot ply the road in Lagos State. It would appear that at least those two matters were overlooked. We don't know. We're sure there will be an investigation.
If that is the truth, then it is a challenge to all of us, because you never can tell who will be next. And
look at, immediately after the tragedy of yesterday, we have found another tanker laden with fuel leaking.
That's exactly what we're saying. So it behoves on all of us. Nigerians now need to support those agencies that are doing the right thing. Now, when the issue of driving against the traffic started, and Lagos State government, through the task force or even the Nigerian police, Lagos State Command, was announcing that on so-so date, we will begin to enforce this. You still see pockets of blackmail from the public, especially those who are arrested. They will tell you that, construction are going on, the traffic was too much, I'm feeling heat, I don't want to die in it. Come on. I mean, you don't have to break the law to say because you're in traffic. In fact, all of this construction is to ease the burden that we daily face commuting from one point to the other in Lagos. So for me, I want to begin to think that, yes, we have now been challenged. For His Excellency to come out 1 a.m. and stood with us. In fact, he was coming back, but he was heading the traffic because he said he would return. And when he was coming, we advised, you cannot come now, sir. because we have locked down the road because of this. You can't access here at this point in time. But be rest assured, we will do it. And that's why we did it. We all were there all through the night. In fact, a lot of agencies were there, and they were alive to their responsibility. If everybody was, you see, when people look at the number of vehicles that were burnt and the number of lives that were lost, everybody began. I want to commend the courage of those who survived this incident. Because even majority of those who died in this incident were not brought out from burnt vehicles. Some of them were down on the floor, indicating that they came out of the vehicle, attempted to escape.
Okay.
But they were caught in that big conflagration. Now, what we're saying is that even though it's painful, and we send our heartfelt condolences to the family of those who lost their life. Like the road safety man advised, bumper-to-bumper driving, especially on Otedola Bridge. That bridge is notorious, we all know this. It's better for all of us to now begin to be extra careful driving out of Lagos, driving through Otedola Bridge, especially when you have this articulated vehicle. Even if you ask them to drive at night, you need to come and see at night to imagine the magnitude of vehicles that are driving out of Lagos at night. We blocked that road for less than 30 minutes to begin to push away these vehicles. Honestly, they were calling us from as far as Obalende. The vehicles are there. You can imagine
that's how
yes,
it had extended.
And then the same thing on the Ikorodu road. We can't shut down that road, you know, indefinitely. So what was uppermost in our mind was to first of all take away those vehicles until the lay-by and allow some time for vehicles to ply. And then by 3 o'clock, we shut down the road again when majority of those vehicles held back in town had driven out. And then we now begin to do proper cleaning up, taking away those vehicles out of that road into the Olusoso Dub site. So we can now look at what are we going to do about the carcass.
Okay, let's take a break now. We have Mr. Adesina Tiamiu. He's just describing the roads to us, and Mr. Hygiena Someje, the commander of Lagos State Sector Commander, he was also supposed to be here. It just might well be that the gridlock, I don't know, might have prevented him. Even Mr. Adesina himself had to abandon his own vehicle and get on one of his power bikes to arrive, according to the commitment here. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. We'll take your inputs as well when we come back. Welcome back, and the day after the tragic fire at the Otedola Bridge axis, we've begun to hear, you know, what actually happened following preliminary investigations. No doubt there'll be a proper investigation, but at least if you were with us in the first half of the program, it seemed that a petrol-laden tanker didn't have the torque required to ascend a hill and then began to slide back and, you know, capsized, and then, you know, fuel spilled, hot engines, conflagration. Now, we were talking about, when we showed the film, one of the officials there was speaking about it being an avoidable situation. Okay, yeah, 20/20 hindsight, you know, it's usually perfect. This avoidable part of it is that if people had kept to all the regulations, government itself is sometimes caught between a rock and a hard place. Government knows what to do, it has put out all the regulations, but then enforcement is another matter. I remember right now it is on the books, street trading is not permitted, it's illegal in Lagos State. Lagos State tried to pursue that, it wasn't making a new rule, it said at the time. But when Lagos State moved into action to say, look, I say street trading is not on. If I remember the incident, one of those who were continuing to infringe that rule in trying to escape an official, unfortunately ran into a car, lost his life, public outcry. People are doing this because they don't have any work. Why is government having this draconian attitude? I don't know that there was any concerted policy, but softly, softly, nobody's talking about street trading anymore as, you know, an offense that government is not going to tolerate. So we're talking about that in relation to government knows the right thing to do, and you were talking about, look, sometimes it's almost impossible because there's a blackmail element. If government insists on the right thing, you will give me an example of some instance in the recent time when a vehicle that was defective it was its turn to load. There was a queue. It stood there. It just waited there, wanted to be loaded. After some time, people behind it began to say, look, why don't you just load this man and let us go?
That's the problem.
So you can either insist, whereupon there then is a problem, and unfortunately the very public themselves begin to say, look, why don't you just let this one go? Does that feel frustrating sometimes?
Well, indeed, that is right, because I have also witnessed where that happened at the port during the task to ensure that those trailers who were parked on the bridge were taken away. As an emergency responder, I'm not happy seeing them. I know countless number of bodies that my men have gone to pick behind them. If you look at it when you're driving from Ikorodu Road towards Ojuelegba, if you climb that Ojuelegba bridge,
where another tragedy happened recently.
Yes, Domanlong Bridge.
Yes, yes.
If you are not aware that they used to park on that bridge before, as soon as you climb the bridge and you are descending, then you meet them. We've seen a lot of accidents happen. I had personally carried accident victims across 6 hospitals when the Johesu people were on strike. And painfully, after even spending our own money to ensure this woman did not die, she died in her hands because she lost so much blood. Now, the tanker drivers that caused that, of course, the tanker was a runaway. That was not the initial thing for us to do. It was first to save lives.
Yes.
And that was what we did. We took away the victims out of the vehicle, and off we went to the hospital. Where are we going to take them to? We were just towing them on the lay-by.
Yes.
But you can imagine how many, even when His Excellency said, we need to move them out of the road. I asked, where are we going to take them to? Yes, even though we're building a tanker park. If that tanker park is ready, how many towing vehicles will be towing as much as 500, 600 that you have on that road there? Then we won't walk in Lagos again. Good. So it's a big one. It's a big challenge.
It really is a big one. Okay, let me take Mazi Okoroafo. Good morning, Mazi Okoroafo.
Good morning, Sir Yori. Good morning, our guests in the studio.
Sure.
Good morning, sir.
Honestly, Sir Yori, I would suggest not only Lagos State government, all the 36 states of Vision plus Abuja, they should ban anything tanker drivers, all these big vehicles, trailers, entering any state until 9 p.m. If the government can implement such policy and they make sure they insist on it, no tanker drivers should enter any state until 9 p.m. And before 6 a.m., no tanker driver should be seen just roaming about, just entering or going out from any state. It will help us.
But Mazi, you've heard that there can be a quote-unquote blackmail aspect to this of governments enforcing these rules when there's an overwhelming voice of, wait now, why? And government oftentimes chickens out.
So let me tell you one thing. Do you know what happens? That the problem we have in Nigeria, we don't like to enforce all these things. Now, you look at the situation, when there is any accident, even on the road, either or Lagos, anywhere, you see people rushing to the accidents. Now, what is happening in any outside Nigeria, in any European countries, either Asia, either America or Germany, when there is an accident, people don't rush to such places. It's only the security agents that are people involved about such offenses who rush them. But Nigeria, anytime there's any accident, you see people rushing. That is why you see many people now suffer when there is an accident in any sport. We have to stop this. It is the duty of all these agencies to educate Nigerians. You don't rush to any place where there is an accident.
Okay.
Allow the authority concerned to be there. That is the problem. Even when people rush, even the authority come in, they cannot even have space to safeguard human beings.
Yeah.
Now, may the soul of those who that died there rest in possible. But this is we have to insist on people should not rush.
Yeah.
And all this issue of accident. The tanker drivers, some of them are very, very reckless. Let us call it spade a spade. Many of these big trucks drivers, they are very, very reckless. They have no respect. Know that the vehicles are not in good condition. They will put it on the road, which is very, very bad. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day in Lagos.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling. Well, it comes back to resources again, because as he is saying, yeah, it makes perfect sense. And but I imagine the authorities are overwhelmed because, first of all, they're going to be the actual core emergency responders and firefighters. Then you're going to have a whole, army of officials doing what he just said, keeping people at bay, because people, it is human nature. People want to go and see, and it will not happen only when they are physically prevented till it then begins to enter into our culture. But for now, there's a tragedy somewhere. I've got to go there. People are going to go.
The major challenge we had yesterday was actually crowd control.
There you go.
Our vehicles
Did you have the men to deploy to tell to cordon off the tragedy as you see when you are watching American film?
Even we have cordon tape that we,
people breached it.
Tack around to take possession of an incident scene. They still go behind it.
This is a problem. There are different aspects to our
to manage emergency in this country, and it's important. We should talk to our people. Yesterday, some of them noticed and saw the danger we used to talk about. Why they were so close to the vehicles burning, and we were saying, "Come on, you still have tanks.
You're too close.
You still have tanks."
They didn't realize the danger they were in.
It could explode, and one indeed exploded, and some of them injured themselves because they fell into the gutters. Immediately they had that explosion. Of course, they tried to run, and the danger is you now run onto yourself. You trample on some other people. You know how the stampede and all of that you notice.
Yeah.
So it's terrible. It's terrible.
I know that on the investigations and all of that, you say 59 people.
Yes.
Even 2 people, 1 person is too much. But have we begun have we been able to ascertain who these people are, determine who they are, and get in touch with their people? I don't know that aspect of it, the human aspect of it. What's the progress on that?
Well, I have not been to the office today, but I have been taking calls of people visiting the office, wanting to know where they are looking for their relation and all of that.
There will be all
yes,
of that.
the state will have to take a decision. There is the issue of corona when it comes to situations
and
like
also
this.
Establishing the identity of these people.
Each of these
because
people.
I saw body bags.
Yes.
I saw body bags.
In fact, almost everybody there was burnt beyond recognition.
Oh dear.
We need to, do a coroner's inquest to be able to establish that.
Oh dear.
And then, there's also the religious angle. If you can identify whoever is a Muslim, you need to quickly give him, burial before a certain time.
There's all of that.
And all of that. But the mere thought of wanting to give these people mass burial is also painful. Because
there's just about 9 people. Is a mass burial necessary in this kind of a situation?
What if you can't identify who is who? Are you going to take bodies that you don't know home for burial? That's another problem. But we can decide today, to say, we'll bury all of these people at a certain place.
9 people? So
what do? We need
maybe DNA, maybe forensics. I don't know. I'm just.
Lagos State have that capacity. If it goes to that, we have a DNA center in Lagos.
That's what I remember.
Of course, we can go deeper into establishing the identity of these people because
all of these are in the realms of possibility.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe in Victoria Island, for holding on. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Well, what I want to say is that, and I'd like to tell the truth, this is a failure of certain agencies. You see, when you have tankers that are leaking, it's because certain people that are responsible to make sure that such vehicles are not on the road, are not doing their job one way or another. And I will tell you...
You're talking about the leaking tanker of this morning, not the incident of yesterday.
I'm talking generally. Yes, I'm talking of generally.
Generally, okay.
Scenario.
Okay.
Yes. And I want to give you an example, and this is personal, and I will tell the truth. Not long ago, I had last man stop me because my driver's seat belt wasn't working. So when they stopped me, they took me to a place I don't want to disclose. They took me to their office and stuff like that. I stood there for close to 2 hours. I was supposed to be slammed a bill of probably about 20-something thousand or thereabouts. But, the here and there, at the end of the day, some guys around there took 5,000 from me, and then they let me go. What I'm trying to tell you is that if they had slammed me with the appropriate bill, I would have done everything to fix that seatbelt as soon as I left the other. So if sanctions are not pressed, people will continue offending and endangering the lives of other people. As I'm talking to you now, I have not fixed that seatbelt because I feel if I just meet anybody, I'll pay you and then you are off. So I think that it's a failure of agency in providing necessary sanctions. Thank you and have a good morning.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling in. Well, the principle of what he's saying I alluded to earlier, where these agencies that are responsible for making sure that regulations are complied with, are they getting by them? I didn't want to go as far as he went and say, are they being paid off?
I also want
so you don't do the right thing.
I also want to be factual like the man who just spoke. Why will you bribe them if you care for your life? The seatbelt is there to protect you in case of an accident. You have paid 5,000 naira illegally.
I didn't want to get into the specifics.
No, it's important.
It is important.
It is for me, and it is also for the public.
Yes, sir. It is very, very important. But we can actually get bogged down. But if you just take the principle of it, I'm extending it. He escaped, light. He's just paid 5,000. He beat the system, corrupt officials. That's the whole principle behind. How did that tanker, with its engine in such a state of disrepair that it didn't have the torque to ascend a relatively gentle slope, how was it able to ply this road? How had it not? Sure, you understand, sir?
I do
so
understand.
It's the same principle with what Joe has just said. He said he paid them 5,000 instead of maybe 25,000, and he's on his merry way. He added for good measure that I haven't still done it. Well, Joe knows better than that, because when he's going to need a seat belt, when a seat belt is going to actually, not him, but as we say locally, when a seat belt is actually going to save your life, you won't believe what you are saying. So I'm not going to dwell on that. It is self-explanatory that, yeah, Joe, you beat the system, but going back to how that principle affected yesterday, Lagos State could have prevented that vehicle from being on the road. But you sort of explained that, if we do that, maybe it's only a quarter of the vehicles that are on the road that actually will be on the road. There'll be an uproar, then we have to back down. So it's a very unsatisfactory situation.
While I will not want to defend any agency of government that have not done their work, the truth remains that this is from the point where that vehicle is taken off. When you want to load petrol and your tanks are leaking, why would the company leak them? It's not a government agency.
Why would the company load them?
Why do they load them?
You see, this is what we talk about system. In this very thing that is happening now.
Yes.
People say, even in our political system, because we are doing all these shortcuts and all of this, you might think it's dissimilar, but we actually end in political conflagrations as well. So it seems that it's one of those problems that we have at our level of our state of development, where look, sorry, sir, you go to the UK, you go to US perhaps, you go to Germany perhaps, and even if Nigerians, this very Joe, if he were in Germany, he wouldn't dare. But there's something back home that says to us, wait, see, I'm at home, I know how to sort myself out. Franklin in Apapa, let me not delay you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, my own observation is this. One of the major problems we are having is infrastructure.
Infrastructure?
Yes. In Apapa here,
yes.
I think you see most of these trucks, they struggle. Come to Apapa here, from Coconut down there, the roads are so bad, they stop for like 3 days, most of them are ridiculous.
That's right.
But they hesitate those spots. Your guys can certify to this. One, after those bad portions, it fell at Beggar Yard here without any issue. Another one at my 2. This is always a concurrent issue here. Before those infrastructure could be, most of these vehicles are bad. As regards the leaking, I've seen the situation sometimes when all those trucks are leaking, they pour water as a result of gravity. The water will be at the bottom. They'll be going like that. You understand now? That's their head is.
Yes.
If the thing is leaking, they pour water. As a result of gravity, the water will be at the bottom. The water will be draining along the road. So the infrastructure is the key.
Yeah.
to sort this out.
Okay.
Along Kapapa is here.
Okay.
Including all these trucks and containers.
Thank you very much for calling in. Sort of our emergency infrastructure, because look, it just needs to be said that government itself is aware of the problem. Things are in such a state of disrepair, and insisting, I think the truth of the matter is that if government were to insist on everything being hunky-dory, perfect, before they allow it, it will quickly turn, there were those who will accuse Lagos State government of becoming a police state, of becoming draconian and all of that. And so government itself maybe has to make a decision and a determination as to how far it's going to insist on the right thing being done. Although the governor is not going to be happy with that kind of an utterance, because he wouldn't like to accept that any kind of compromises are indeed allowed. But there's a sense in which doing the right thing entirely will sort of close down the system because the people are not cooperating. We can talk from today till tomorrow about we have to learn to do this, we have to become this, but people are not going to do it. Because imagine taking that tanker off the road. Imagine the loss of income to whoever owns that tanker. These are the kind of things that will come, that the political pressure will be brought to bear. There will be temporary palliatives. There will be palliatives. But okay, I'll go and do it. In short, we have a problem on our hands when it comes to doing the right thing, even with serious governments like Lagos State.
Well, Lagos State government on its part is trying.
I don't know that there's no serious government. Maybe I should just amend that. Even with government like Lagos State, that is a center of excellence. Yeah, I've just rephrased that.
Lagos State government is trying its best, but you see, we all need to put our hands together, just like I said. Lagos State has done a lot of roads, you know, intra and inter.
Yes.
Even some of these roads are federal roads. These are just because we want to make life easy for Lagosians.
Yeah.
Lagos State government rebranded Lasema Response Unit. We have state-of-the-art equipment. These are what we used to go to, you know, private companies to go and hire. Now we have it at our beck and call. It has improved our response time. Now we need the cooperation of the public.
Of the people.
Now we have said it. When anything happens, don't resort to self-help first. Call for help. It doesn't matter. It's free from the point of making that call and from the services we render. Call. If we come there and you have sorted out that problem, we will give you tips to avoid it next time, and then we'll go. There's no harm in it.
Yes.
But if you start with a small smoke, and then you think you can use buckets of water to fight it, and it becomes balls of fire, and then you now start to call. And then everybody will begin to count from when that fire started, not from when you call for help.
Let me bring Mr. Abe in. Abe is in Joburg, South Africa. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in.
And good morning to the guest in the studio.
Sure.
Good morning, sir.
First and foremost, I sympathize with the victim of what happened yesterday and those people who lost their life. You know, I really sympathize with them. But at the same time, Uncle Yori, I think the major problem we have in Nigeria is lack of discipline in both the citizen and the government. Uncle Yori, I lived in South Africa for so many years. Naturally, you can hardly see a vehicle carry petrol moving during the day. They have a specific period. They move between 6 p.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning. You know, it's just to contain something like this not to happen,
Exactly.
Where we are, especially in kind of Nigerian system where we have more than 1 million vehicles on the road.
But we also have similar regulations. We have, you know, Abe, you know, we have similar regulations. What Mr. Tiami is saying is that the cooperation required from the other side, the lack of it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, but sir, the problem is that we need to implement those laws, sir. Because look at the people that lost their life yesterday. Look at how many vehicles that got bumped yesterday. If those laws are fully complied with, such things will not have arrived at all. It's because when you go to their office, it's very easy for us to bribe them and we go our way. All these things still brought to bribery and corruption. We just need to get it right, sir.
Indeed.
You know, even we that we are living outside the country, there are certain things we can't do here. But when we get to our country, there are certain things we can do. Why do you think it is possible? It's because we know it is possible for us to get it done.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling in, Abby. Appreciate your call. Joe, calling in from VI, exemplified that point. Yeah, he was forthright enough to say it, but he also identified himself as part of the problem. And I don't say this sanctimoniously. Joe could be just about any Nigerian, simply because it's doable.
Yes.
The moment Joe or any other Nigerian goes to some place where they know there is no compromise, it might be Australia, it might be Canada, it might be anywhere. It might be, I don't know, it might be Ghana, where there is no compromise, they no go agree. The law is not going to allow it. Then they conform. But because, and that's where somebody spoke about the discipline of both the citizenry and the government, because they know that the system, governance, can be compromised.
That's true.
Can be, easily, not without much difficulty. Joe used himself as an example. He said, I haven't fixed that thing. He's explaining and identifying the problem using him, sacrificing himself, saying that, look, he didn't say it exactly, but I'm that bad Nigerian that we're talking about. And he's not alone. Just about 95% of us are along with him.
So many.
So that's one of the aspects of this whole problem. We know the right thing, but what is it here that prevents us from doing the right thing? And I think we've sort of determined that the ordinary Nigerian is going to continue to do what he wants to do in as much as he can. And he will only desist when it is absolutely impossible for him to continue. Only then will he say, well, okay, it's not, there's no road there. But if there is a road, it's just a matter of, you're not allowed to pass this way. The Nigerian will. He will look left, look right, and go. And that's the unfortunate problem. I think they're trying to tell me someone else is coming in. Okay, sir. So
going forward, I want to see a situation where we can begin from the very simple ones, like the bridges where you are not supposed to drive a heavy truck upon. Let's now begin to go and fix barriers there.
Okay.
And if you fix barriers there,
yes,
we also have to talk to those who will use the underbridge to make sure that that road is not congested.
Okay, so we have to attack again this whole matter about our sense of the right thing, and try and strengthen that to do the right thing.
We have to start to do it now that we have the public willingness to support.
Well, I hope, I just want to believe with all my heart.
You know, during last week, when we had that accident, a lot of those who were there were ready to stop all of those tankers or trucks coming in to go under Ojuelegba Bridge. Okay. But again, we have the challenge of...
We've got to let go of it. Thanks to our reporter on the scene, Sarah Ayeku, who gave us the opening, and Mr. Additional Tiamio, GM of LASEMA. Thank you very much, sir, and wish you all the best, as I'm sure you're returning to the scene to see the mop-up operation. Yes. That's our program. Please join us Monday. We don't do weekends for a fresh edition from 10:30 in the morning. I'm Yori Folani. Have a great weekend.